All right. What is up, everybody?
Hey.
Welcome. Hope you're doing well. My name is Mike. Got Lauren with me here in the studio. Super excited. Hey, welcome to our first ever After School with Traders Point Youth. So excited. Super pumped. Hey, Lauren, glad to have you here. We're going to have a great day.
I'm excited. I've been looking forward to this all day.
Very excited. So Lauren, would love to start off. Would just love for folks to get to know you as a person, as a human being. So tell us a little bit about you. Tell us about where you're from. Tell us about your family. Tell us about you in a nutshell.
I can do that.
Go for it.
Absolutely. Well, my name's Lauren Mallory. I am originally from Michigan, so I'm like 4.5 hours from home right now. From my
That's a
hometown.
solid drive home.
It is.
Yeah.
It goes by pretty fast though. Just fill it up with some tunes, some podcasts, and maybe some phone calls, and it's like easy breezy.
Yep.
So love that.
Where in Michigan?
Yes. Gotta do the Michigan thing. I'm like right up here.
Okay.
In Saginaw, Michigan.
Okay.
I was born and raised in the same town, like a one stoplight town. We had a gas station, a McDonald's, and like a grocery store. You know,
it's like all you
that's all
need.
you need, really.
Right.
Yeah. So love that. Grew up through the whole like same public school system. So I only ever went to the same school growing up. And like a lot of the people that I went to kindergarten with are the people that I graduated with, which is pretty cool.
It's very weird.
It is.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people who either like moved around schools a lot or went to a school that had like 1,000 students, which I just can't imagine that.
Yeah.
So very different for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I grew up in the North Side in Westfield. Shout out to my fellow Shamrocks.
Yes.
But yeah, it was a pretty big school. It's gotten huge like since I graduated. But yeah, even back in the day, it was like, gosh, 14 I was gonna say 14,000. That's a college. That's not math is hard. It was like 1,400. So it was there was same thing. I was like a 12-year senior, which was cool, but there was like 400 something in our graduating class. So like even all this is weird. I think maybe looking back, I probably knew most of like my fellow 12-year seniors.
Yeah.
But like just barely.
Yeah.
So yeah, to hear like our whole, would you say like your whole high school had like what was like your graduating class?
86.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So lots of fun there.
Yeah.
So grew up same town my whole life.
Yep.
And then I moved to Knoxville, Tennessee for college.
Let's go. That's sweet.
Was a big jump.
I love Tennessee.
Oh, me too. And East Tennessee is so beautiful because it's like right in the foothills of the Smoky Mountains. So like you can go hiking.
Yep.
Our campus was maybe like 25 minutes away from like the heart of downtown Knoxville. So there's just lots to do, which was super fun. So love that.
That's awesome. Okay. So what was the name of your college? Where'd you go?
Yeah, I went to Johnson University, which is just like a small Christian school.
Yep.
In East Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what'd you major in?
Well, that's a long story.
It always is.
Right. When I was in high school, okay, you know how they have you take all those tests of like, let's see what you'll be good at. You know, like you answer these 50 questions and we'll tell you what your like ideal job is or whatever.
It's such a joke.
It really is. Yeah. And sometimes it's helpful and insightful, but like at the end of the day, it's just so hard to know.
Yes.
And so I had that mindset of like, I'm going to commit to something and I'm not going to be that person who changes their major a million times. And of course, like I changed my major before I even got there. Like,
nice.
Because when you apply for college, they have you write like, what's your major of choice or whatever. I didn't even like, it was communications or something random like that. And I had already changed it by the time I got to the school. I ended up changing it a few times, but finally landed on youth ministry.
Sweet.
And that just felt like home. Like
let's
right
go.
away.
You're in the right place. Yeah. So I started out. I also was like, I'm going to go in, I'm going to do business. I didn't even fully know what that, I was just like, sure. I'm not even good with numbers, like, which is super fun. That was always a fun conversation with my engineer dad.
Right.
Cause he's like, well, of course numbers. And I was like, no, not numbers. Give me like letters and words and stuff, and I do better there. But like, so I started in. I was like, a business school. Yeah, let's go. I'm gonna start my own business. And then I quickly figured out. I think it was it was like my first semester sophomore year. Like freshman year, meh, whatever. Like everyone's taking gen eds. It's fine.
Right.
Sophomore year, I had econ, accounting, and calculus in the same semester, and I about died.
I'm sure.
Like it felt like my brain was just like melting out my ears half the time. I was like, I can't do this anymore. So yeah, I switched over to political science, weirdly enough.
Yes.
That is an actual major, folks. But yeah, because I was always like the nerd who was like reading the newspaper.
Yeah.
Like at 16 years old, I was like reading the opinion section in the back of the newspaper. My mom pointed out when I was in college, she's like, "Hey, just so you know, that's not normal.
Right.
It's kind of a weird thing. Like most high schoolers aren't reading the newspaper, period.
Right,
You're like reading the opinion section and like evaluating arguments. Like that's weird." I was like, "Thanks, Mom." But she's actually like who I get it from, because she so when I was born, she like worked on Capitol Hill. So like she is the political junkie like of the family. So yeah, that I always thought that was super cool. And so like I kind of followed in her footsteps, interned in DC for a summer.
Yeah.
Was in politics for a couple of years. Loved it. It was great. It was super fun. But then like at the same time was volunteering with an organization called Young Life, which is like, if you're familiar with it at all, it's like student outreach, Christian outreach. Just like loved it. I was like, this is the best part of this is like the best part of my week.
Yes.
And so yeah, long story short, made a jump. Here we be. So it's a significantly longer story than that, but you know, here we are.
Yes.
In the chat, I want to shout out some people in the chat because they are here for it. Nick Ely, Eva Branham, Eric Penley, Ann, JJ Coaster, Sierra. Hey, we have some students. Favorite? What was your best and your worst class in high school?
It's a great
or
question.
In college? Either one.
I'll go to high school. Best. If we're not counting like lunch period, like social hour.
You don't get to count that. That's not a thing.
If I could, that's like my honorable mention. I would just hop around from table to table and go talk to all the people. And it was so much fun.
Good job.
Yes.
I was not that.
No.
Angela my wife could attest. She was, because we actually started dating in high school. And so she like knows me from high school and blah, 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 knows me from, we're married. She knows me from high school. But she was like, even to this day, she's like, you were so quiet in high school. Like, I was not a social butterfly in the slightest.
Yeah.
So, okay, so
that aside.
So, yeah, I don't know that cafeteria hour qualifies.
I wish it did.
It should.
Best class, I would say probably English. I really love writing, and I always enjoyed that a lot. And like we would get to discuss different books and different storylines that we were following and things like that. I think I just really needed like a creative outlet when I was in middle school. Honestly, I still do all the time.
Oh, for sure.
What I love about my job is that it involves a lot of creativity. But at the time, I would definitely say English, writing, like that sort of thing. Not the greatest with biology because it's literally just like so much memorization.
It's a ton
of terms,
it's
and that's
a lot.
like so much.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah, it always overwhelmed me.
Yeah. Chat definitely is not here for math, which is unsurprising. I would say for me, math was way down there for me. I would say either like history, social studies, like, which, you know, political science, like that kind of makes sense. But like, I always loved history. I loved, I remember, so I literally, Angela and I were in the same, I think it was American history class. Yeah. And I was just like loving it. I was like, let's go. This is my jam. I already know half of this stuff.
Yes.
And she was like, I need help. And that was like when we were like pretty new to dating. And so this was like, I was like, I got you, babe. I'm gonna tutor you through all of this stuff. And I want to say she aced the class. Like,
that's amazing.
I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying I maybe helped my wife to pass U.S. history.
Okay, so here's a question for you, and I want to hear in the chat too.
Okay, go for it.
Because I've seen this online.
Yep.
And it was one of those things where you see something and you're like, wait, I'm not the only person who did this. Okay, so people like color code their folders and binders for classes. Yeah. And there's a massive number of people who use the same color. So like math was red. And then, which I don't know if that's like red means stop.
Red
means people are like, we're not playing around with math.
Please don't.
And then science was always green, you know, grass, earth.
Yeah,
like
biology. Sure, I get it.
And then like social studies was usually like a blue color. And I want to know, like,
that's hilarious.
Did you ever like four colors like that?
I was barely even organized to have folders. Like I was not an I was one of those students that like I did pretty well, but I didn't try. Like looking back, I was like, I could have gone so much. So my sister was that. Like my sister got a scholarship to Butler. Like she's a smart cookie, even to this day. Like she's a smart cookie, and so she probably did. I'll have to ask her. So one more time, math was red.
Yes.
Science was green. What was blue?
Social studies.
Social studies.
And then history was probably just whatever fourth
so
color you could
whatever you
find.
had left.
Yeah.
What about like English?
Oh, that's right. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
English probably would have been like
a yellow, like an orange. I don't know.
Like a more fun color. But I know
some not primary color.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, but there's like a whole like forum about it online where people are like,
hilarious.
These are the colors that we assign.
These are obviously the colors of your folder in elementary school.
Yes. That's so funny.
That's hilarious. I love that. Oh, Eric is asking, do they still have 5-star trapper keepers? Sierra said math was blue, social studies was green, red was English for me. That's amazing. That's a hot take, Sierra.
I guess now though, there's probably so many fun printed like binders and notebooks, so maybe that's not as much of a thing anymore.
Yeah. What was your favorite? Did you ever have like the patterns folders or like any of the Eric's asking about 5-star trapper keepers, but that for sure was a thing.
Yes.
Again.
Which is that the one that zips and you like that was like the biggest flex, I feel like. There's always that one student on the first day of school who's like, oh, let me just pull this out really quick. I never had that.
No.
Never did.
I think I did probably. Again, not an organized student. I just all got shoved into one folder. Yes. I had like probably my mom had like taken the time to like label like this one's for math, this one's for science, this one's for English, blah blah blah. And I was just like, it's all going into math. Like I'm not an organized student.
That's
and
funny. Why carry 5 when I could just have one?
Yeah, when I could just have one and just it all goes in the. I was that kid that it felt like all of my homework assignments got just shoved into the bottom of my backpack.
You're like smoothing it out on your desk before
like
you have to
no,
turn
it's fine. It's all fine. Yeah, I for sure was that kid. Okay, so any siblings?
Yes, I have an older sister. She's 4 years older than I am. Okay. So for context, like when I was in elementary school, she's already in middle school. By the time she's in college, or by the time she's in high school, I'm finally caught up in middle school. So like we were never in the same like social setting, never in the same stage of life.
Right.
So we clashed like all the time.
For sure.
And so it really wasn't until she left the house that we became super close. Cause then it's like, oh wait, I actually really love you and I miss you a lot. So she's like one of my best friends.
I actually like you as a person now that we don't live in proximity together. Yeah. I totally get that. So I've got 2 younger sisters. One of them is a year and a half younger than me, like almost exactly. And then I've got a younger sister that is 4 years younger than me. And we actually got along really well.
Really?
I think partially because my other 2 sisters didn't get along super well growing up because they were like closer in age. And there was definitely that like younger sibling, like your mom is like, you got to include her too. Like you got to drag her along, you know? So yeah, they're for sure. And so I feel like a not insignificant portion of my childhood was spent like kind of defending her from my middle sister, which that then created some tension a little bit with my middle sister. Right. We're all totally cool now. Like we love each other. We like, I just saw them this weekend. They're great, you know, like, but it is crazy. So high school students take some encouragement if you have siblings and they just drive you bonkers right now. Like there will come a day where that isn't the case anymore. Happen. It's probably when one of you leaves the house and you're like, oh wait, I actually really love and miss this person. Yes. So
so true.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. So, talk to me a little bit about like Traders Point, coming here. What do you do? How long you been here? What do you love? Like, tell me a little bit about just your role.
Yeah, absolutely. So I moved to Indy in August of this past year. So I'm still pretty fresh in the area. So anyone who's watching right now, like, let me know what your favorite places are, the best like parks to go to in the summertime. Like fill me in on all things Indy because I honestly I don't know a lot. And like moving to a place in a pandemic's hard too because there's not as much to do and not as many places to go. So like
we to a lesser extent sort of know how you feel. So we moved back, like we moved to our house like in December of last year. So like right before everything just closed down. And it for sure felt like even now we're like sort of coming out of like everything. We're like, oh wait, like this place has a park over here. Didn't know that. Like, So for sure, I can only imagine like coming to an entirely new city in the middle of a pandemic. You're like, I don't know what anything is to do. Yeah.
So would love any recommendations you all have.
So what's been the best find so far?
Okay, well this was this weekend actually.
Ooh, okay.
Went to Fisher's with a couple friends and we went to Crumble Cookie.
Ooh.
Or Crumble Cookies, I don't know if it's plural or not. But it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
So like we stood in line for probably like an hour and 15 minutes. And I'll do it again, guys. I'm serious. They were so good. And they're like baked fresh in-house, like as everyone's going through the line. Like it was just such a fun experience and it was very good. So
and how long? An hour?
And like 15 minutes probably.
They had better be worth it at that point.
They were though.
That's good.
So it was cool.
At some point the line becomes its own hype train
true.
Like these things had better be worth it.
Yeah.
Surely not everyone in front of me is standing in line if they're not worth it.
Right. And everyone had like, because it was kind of like chilly. It was at like 10 p.m. or whatever. So everyone's got their blankets on. You know, there are people just like working their way through the line. And by the end of it, you feel like emotionally connected to these people. You know what I mean? Like you just went through something together. So
it's like, I feel like with a 4-hour commute home, you probably have felt this before, but like, have you ever been on a super long drive and there's like that one car that you're both going the same speed?
Yes.
You're just like, you are now my travel buddy for like 50 miles. And then one of you takes an exit and it's like, it feels kind of like the, what is it? It feels like Hunger Games where it's just like.
That's exactly what it feels like.
I can't, I'm doing it way over here. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway.
That's amazing.
Yeah. People you stand in line with, just, that's hilarious. Things. Okay. So you've been here for how long?
Let's see.
Give or take.
I got to count with my fingers.
I know.
Give me a second. Numbers are hard.
I know. Math is hard. We've established this.
9 months.
Nice.
9 months.
Okay. So, so what's your role now? Like, what are you up to?
Yeah. So I serve as the Northwest Youth Groups Director at our Northwest campus.
Sweet.
Basically, I oversee all things small groups for our campus, and I'm mostly focusing in on leaders. So the adult small group leaders who are on our team, we've got about 30 of them here.
Yep.
And so they're kind of like my small group in a way where I'm just there to kind of help assist them and help encourage them and pour into them so that they can lead their groups well, which is just really fun. And it's kind of different because I think a lot of times with youth ministry, people assume that like we only focus on youth, which it's a good assumption to make. Like that makes sense. But actually, like a majority of my job is actually working with adults. Yeah. So that's been pretty fun.
Yeah. Dude, they're just the best. It's just the best crew of people. It's really fantastic. Well, sweet. So what do you, I mean, you kind of mentioned like pouring into leaders. What's like one thing about your job that you wish everybody knew or could see or could experience?
Let's see. I would say just like some of the stories that we get to hear that maybe not everyone gets to witness or experience. It's really cool to work really hard on a behind the scenes project and then like hand it off to a leader of like, hey, here's the questions that you're going to go through with your students, or here's what we've really been praying about and what we're really excited to see happen. And then when the leaders come back to us and report like, hey, guess what? This really great thing happened in our group. Yeah. And like just getting to celebrate those little wins with them, you know, that like aren't necessarily things that we're sharing with the whole group or whatever, but it's just those little moments of celebration that just really like make the job, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, and little known fact, you didn't mention this, Lauren heads up, kind of leads our content team with like writing small group questions and all of that. So yeah, that process of just like, because I feel, because I'm a part of the content team and Lauren does an awesome job like leading. Yeah, that whole process of just like trying to craft a good, there's like a lot of thought that goes into crafting good questions. I'm sure like crafting good, sermons and all of that. So yeah, it is a ton of fun. Yeah. So Lauren, super excited to have you. Speaking of Sunday, would love to just kind of hear so this past Sunday we had Kyle Riley, our downtown campus pastor. He was the one that gave the message Sunday, crushed it. Shout out to Kyle. He did amazing. He's like the master. Our online team was laughing. He's like the master of alliteration of just he had so many phrases. Hang on. I feel like I got to pull them up. Okay. Because we were just taking notes. He would be like, work and worship. I don't know why he didn't say it like that. He'd be like, work and worship, plant and praise, till and trust. We're like,
come on now.
Come on, get that alliteration. So what do you feel like was maybe one thing that really stood out to you about kind of Kyle's message? So really it was kind of a message about we've been in this series called Dirt, which really kind of talks about the soil of the heart or the condition of your heart. Yeah. And so this week was kind of the last week of it. So we kind of focused on good soil. So what do you feel like was one thing that really kind of stood out to you about this week and the message?
Well, one thing that Kyle mentioned is that, if we really want to look at what it means to be wholehearted and to, give Jesus your whole heart, we just need to look at the life of Jesus, because he shows us on full display what it looks like to give God our whole heart.
Yep.
And he did that perfectly. And so we can look to his example. And speaking of alliterations, Kyle said that Jesus was patient, persistent, and present.
Yep.
Throughout his
good
life.
Memory. I had it pulled up. That was good.
I was like, okay.
Alliteration helps.
Yes, it really does.
It does.
And so, that's just given me some time to reflect on okay, what are the things when, the times where I need to be patient, persistent, present, where do I struggle to do that? And what are the ways that I can really see the Spirit guiding me through it? And just kind of it's given me some self-reflection. And then I think just the coolest thing with this whole Dirt series is that, we've been in it for 4 weeks.
Yeah.
The same passage of scripture.
Yeah.
Right? We're all scholars at this point, right? Which of course that's not
we practically
true,
know it in the Hebrew. Yeah.
Right,
totally.
Right. We can translate it. It's all good. But it just shows a true testament to the fact that God's word is so deep and so rich that you can read it a million times and still get something new out of it.
Yeah.
Which is just so cool.
Yeah.
So we could keep studying that scripture for a long time as a church and still be getting new truths out of it. And I just think that's really cool.
Yeah. I loved I love the present, persistent, and now I'm blank. Thank you. Patient. I love that. I feel like that really, for sure, that shows up in how we just how we interact with others. I full disclosure, I watched it online because my kid was sick. And so she was literally I watched the whole sermon with her in my with my toddler in my arms, and she's crawling all over me and all this other stuff. And I feel when he kind of talked about man, and any of you that you got you students out here, y'all don't even know, but man, toddlers are just another it's a whole nother thing. Yeah. And so to be present with and not just with her, but with my family as a whole, being present with others, being present, being persistent, all of those things, it's hard. It's so hard to do. The other thing that I loved that he mentioned, he talked about the harvest, because Jesus makes that mention of you will if you do these things, if the word really takes root in your heart, you really take it to heart, then it'll produce a harvest that's 30, 60, 100-fold. And I love that Kyle mentioned have you considered that the harvest isn't for you? Yeah. Which is so hard to hear, because I think all of us man, if we're just patient and we just grind it out and we're persistent and we're if we do the things, then God will reward us. Yeah. And I love that he just had that mindset of hey, what if it's more what God wants to do in you than what he wants to do for you or so to you. And I was oh, that hurts, but that'll preach. That, because I think for me, that's the thing is so hard. And the other thing you mentioned that I loved was when you plant a seed, it grows down before it grows up. So meaning the seed has to do work under the soil and it's not visible before you ever see anything happen to it. And I'm like, oh, that's so good. And I think especially like, man, for our youth that are watching or youth that are out there, like, and you feel like you're just in a season where it's like, yo, this is hard. Like, I feel like I'm trying to be, persistent and patient and, and present with the people in my life, but like, they are not where I want them to be, or like, man, my situation isn't where I want it to be. I just love that reminder that like things have to grow down before they grow up. And waiting is hard. I love the Mr. Rogers thing that he said about his daughter was like, waiting is hard. I was like, preach it, sister. It is hard. It's real hard.
Mr. Rogers, he knows what's up.
I know. Yeah. So I love that.
It's so true too. And I was talking to some students last night and we were just reflecting on how in different seasons, like if you're asked the question like, hey, like what's God doing in your heart right now? Like what's he doing in some of the hard stuff? And sometimes the answer is like, I really don't know. Yeah. And honestly, I don't know if I see him working or anything like that. And there have been seasons in my life, like, a year and a half ago where if I would have been asked the question, like, what's God doing in the soul of your heart right now? I'd be like, honestly, I have no idea. Yeah. But now that I'm out of that and now that I'm in a different season and scenario and I can look back on that time, God's fingerprints are all over it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like now I can see so clearly, God, you were working in that moment. I just couldn't see it until now. And so it's cool to have that perspective too, of just like, even if you're not in a season right now where you're wholehearted and where, you've got that like that good soil, like there's still hope in that because like God is already working and you might not be able to see it right now, but I bet there will be a time later in life where you can look back on this season that you're in right now and be able to clearly see God at work, which is just the coolest thing. Yeah. And so something else I just thought of, it's just like the fact that there's like different seasons and like just because you had one bad season doesn't mean the crop is dead. Right. And I say that, so I have a garden out back that my dad is like total green thumb. He's an awesome gardener. I am not. Yeah. And so like I had a lot of plants like die on me because of just my own, dumbness. But this year we're like he helped me and like, but the crazy thing is that like, even though the plants didn't do great, they still produced a little bit of a harvest that like, then I could turn around, replant it. And like this next season can be even better. So it's like each season can build on the season that came before it. Even if even if one was really hard, like even that one can produce enough fruit to like turn around and do something the next season. So yeah. I love it, man. I have loved this series. I thought it's been awesome. I'm excited for the next one. I don't even fully know like what the I think it's like Achilles, is that it? Yeah, I think that's I'm just intrigued. Me too. Because I've like seen the movie Troy, right? So with Brad Pitt, I don't presume he's going to be in this series, but I am intrigued. Yes. So very excited. Well, cool. Hey, let's. The other thing I would love to do is, Lauren, question that doesn't have to do with anything. How familiar are you with VR? Virtual reality. So here's the thing. I say VR. People don't know what that means. Right. I said it to the other day to somebody. It might have been Trey. I said it to him, and he was like, "VR, what is that?" I was like, "Oh yeah, not everyone's a nerd." Right. So virtual reality. Like, how much experience do you have with it? I have any at all. I have some, very little. So I had my first VR experience in the fall. Okay. So pretty recent still. I was hanging out with some friends and one of them brought it for the day. And so we all played it and it blew my mind. I'm not even going to lie. Like I had expectations because I've been to like interactive rides at like Disney and different things like that where they kind of have like the screen that you go along with. Yep. So I kind of expected it to be like that, but it is like full encompassing, like makes you think you're somewhere else. Yeah. So I've only played a few times, so not a whole lot of experience. But. Great. Well, we're gonna have you hop on and give it a try today. How's it sound? I'm ready. Great. Yeah, let's give it a try. Okay. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna hop to a kind of a be right back screen. We'll get Lauren set up, good to go. I think the rumor is that we may eventually get Mr. Eric Penley in here.
to face off with Lauren and a little challenge that we have. Very excited. But hey, let's real quick. We're gonna jump to kind of a be right back screen. We'll be back in about 60 seconds, so bear with us. But we'll see you here in just a sec. Okay. All right, so here we go. All right, so Lauren, we are